It's a Dungeons & Dragons podcast that'll really make you think. We're spicing up the rules, mashing up the homebrews, and stirring up the debates. Add a little touch of our own, and you have Chef Bolgg and the Pirate Captain's recipes for everything. With your host, the Pirate Captain.
It's not because I took on an entire ship by myself and walked away unscathed just off good looks alone.
Chef Bolgg.
I have in my rules for the original AG. Don't be a dick.
And Loc the Bard.
Loc the Bard bans all bards from his campaign. That wouldn't go over very well.
And without further ado, here are your hosts.
That's right. Back on it again with another adventure. Hey, Bolgg, you're seeming very chipper today.
I'm actually quite angry.
Ah,
But that's a barbarian thing, I think.
I think so. All right, I'm the titular pirate captain. With me always, me bestest buddy Bolgg,
That's me.
and our other friend in nature, Loc the Bard.
Ooh, yeah, ready to rumble.
Are you? I feel like that's like the first. What's with the Macho Man shit?
What? That's my dwarven voice.
I know why. You're not a dwarf. You're a tiefling.
Yeah, but it felt appropriate for today.
He's also not wearing pants. so-
He is not wearing pants. What's with that?
Eh.
Put some pants on.
They
We got
don't, they don't
guests
work
in-
with the tail.
We've got guests in studio.
Oh.
And we're going to get to him here in a minute. Of course, when every podcast starts, you got to get through the obligatory messages, like finding us on Facebook at Chef Bolgg and the Pirate Captain's Recipes for Everything. We are pretty active on there. If you message us, we will reply begrudgingly. Now, we love to talk to you guys. We also have our email, bolgandpc@gmail.com. You can find us social medias everywhere. Tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell whoever may want to listen that we are out there. And this episode is brought to you by our friends over at God Mode Gaming. If you're looking for something to do on a Friday night, well, tune in. GAWD_MODE. Those guys are always doing a grand adventure, and we are actually going to have somebody from God Mode Gaming on here in the next couple weeks. But now, we've got to get to a friend of ours. And he's actually been a friend of ours from a long time ago when we started playing together. He was there. And when I was thinking about people to have in on an episode that is titled Pathfinder VS DnD, I thought, who better than the only DM in the area that I know than our buddy Eric. Eric, what's going on, bud?
Hey, what's up, Internet?
Yeah, the internet, the only place that people actually want to listen to us. Our friend Eric, you can find him at Dungeon Master Eric everywhere on social media except for TikTok, because apparently he got banned, one too many sexual bards in his campaigns, apparently. On TikTok, it's Dungeon Master _Eric. He's got a lot of stuff that he gets into. Mondays, 11 p.m., ADH, Alpha Delta Hotel Adventures. On Twitch, he's DMing out there. Twisted_Pickles on Saturday at 11, where he does a Witcher campaign. Did I get all that right?
Pretty close.
All right, cool. What did I miss?
Close enough for a Google search.
Yeah.
On Mondays, it is Gods of Orlea Phase 2.
Oh, that's right. That was the name
It's
of
the
it.
episode of the title of the show. And I'm not the DM there. I'm just a player.
You actually play?
I get to play every week.
I have only ever seen you behind the screen, so it's really weird.
I know. It's maddening.
I can't handle it. We came up with this episode after Necronomicon, which I know the audio on that episode failed so bad. That is my fault, but it was actually very entertaining. And Bolgg has actually got us signed up for next year. Is that right, Bolgg?
Yep.
That's going to be awesome. We are looking forward to being back again as the official, quote-unquote, podcast of Necronomicon. They don't want to give us that title, but we're taking that title.
I don't know if they're going to like that.
I mean, I don't think they have a choice.
First ever
Official and
podcast to
First-
broadcast from Necronomicon.
That we can take.
I'll take that title, too.
So until somebody else does that, I think we are officially their only.
And if you're the only, guess what you get to be? The official. That's right. Winner by default. My favorite way to win. So I was thinking about it. I was like, I'm still a big Pathfinder. You guys hear me mention it in all these previous episodes. And I wanted to bring in somebody that I knew was the closest thing to an expert that I could say on Pathfinder. I am nowhere near, because he's a DM. He's DM for a long time. He understands the game a lot better than I can. So I need a little help, because we are going to be taking on Bolgg and Loc in D&D versus Pathfinder. Who can win? Which one is better at what? And now Eric's trying to give you guys a little bit of a mulligan, because he's like, oh, well, I've got the goods and the bads of both. No. we're only fighting for the goods of Pathfinder and the bads of whatever it is they want to argue about.
Well, I just don't want to, ostracize half my fan base.
They'll be all right. They'll understand once they really get to know you. Like, oh, this guy really plays an amazing game that is complex and fun and doesn't really need a second edition.
Well, you're right about the second edition part. But once they meet me in person, then they definitely feel ostracized.
Oh, I don't know. You're a pretty friendly dude. So, getting into this, I got to tell you, if I had to think, and I'll throw you guys a softball one because I want to give you guys a chance. D&D 5e, I think, is a lot easier to set up characters at the start, and obviously it's because they want a realm to play. But I tell you, the complexity of the character creation in Pathfinder makes it a hands down better character creation system. And what do you think about that, Eric?
5th edition character creation is absolutely easier. When you just start by looking at the game, you have obviously the player's handbook and a few other resources such as Xanathar's Guide to Everything and Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, which is going to house most of your information you need for character creation. Yes, there's a few other modules that have, hey, here's another one tiny little class or one racial option in it. Whereas Pathfinder has more than a dozen books of information to pick from just for character creation.
Yeah, that's, more options. And when you actually get a new book with Pathfinder, isn't just like you're getting some kind of like half-ass character creation class. You're actually getting like almost a fully fleshed out class from front to end. When you think about wizards in Pathfinder versus D&D, if you look through the different modules, they're already fleshed out towards the end. You don't have to really, you can think about it, but you don't have to. Everything's kind of like right there. If you guys can catch my drift.
Yeah. Well, that also is a difference between the two systems in general. I think Pathfinder, you're going to have a specific rule for every situation, whereas D&D is more of a wing it type situation where it's up to the DM to. You're going to find a lot more custom rules and custom stuff where the DM you're playing with has come up in D&D because those rules don't exist in D&D. Crafting in D&D is just a little section in Xanthar's. There is really no good crafting system in D&D. I'm sure, I never haven't played Pathfinder, that Pathfinder has a crafting system.
It absolutely does, Bard. Yeah. Turns out Pathfinder has a rule for everything. Yeah. And we can sit here about knowing all the rules and the difficulty of RAW, rules as written all day long. But the heart of it comes down to, if you know the rules, then you know which rules you can break, which rules you can bend to speed things up, to keep things flavorful and energetic for everyone at your table.
Yeah, and that is intimidating for new players because there's a bigger learning curve when there is more rules to learn, more options, as opposed to, you come in, make a basic fighter in D&D, and you're going within the first 10 minutes of sitting at the table, whereas you probably need to read the book before you start Pathfinder.
That's what D&D 5e tried to do, but I think sometimes having a complex game actually makes it more entertaining, trying to figure out how you can finesse and finagle each situation. Because obviously, yeah, you're right. D&D, I could just go in and almost wing it. I don't have that many skill checks that to worry from. I need to figure out this arcane lock. Okay, Arcana versus you actually have to have like dungeoneering with lock picking or Arcana with different sigils of the skill trees. Yeah, you're right. You can win that one. Of that D&D 5e is definitely there for the new player. But I think once you start getting once your tabletop experience gets to level 2. I think that's where you need to branch out and hit the Pathfinder because the complex rules, they seem challenging at first, but I tell you, it's a lot more interesting gameplay.
Well, let me go ahead and take a rocket launcher to the elephant in the room. Pathfinder and Dungeons & Dragons 3.5 are very similar. I won't say the same, but very similar.
3.75.
Yeah. And
that's why you bring in an expert.
And Dungeons & Dragons has been here. The reason they made 5th edition the way it is to make it more approachable, easier to access, and easier for players to just jump into a game without having to worry about spending, hours building a character. I can build a character on my phone in 5 minutes 5th edition.
Well, that's why I was trying to avoid, which one was like easier to start playing. Like clearly D&D 5e was meant to do that. They've learned their lessons. They've taken their lickings from, trying to get new players in. So I was trying to avoid, which one's easier to start up and going. I was like, hey man, what has a better character creation system?
Yeah, you were trying. We get it. You're trying to rig the odds in your favor, but we dropped the elbow on that and moved on.
Yeah, but that's why you called in the ringer.
Yeah, you don't bring in an expert for nothing. All right, it is. I think complexity of the game makes it better, and I feel like every new module we're getting, we're not actually making things more complex. That we're actually taking rules away. What was was it Tasha's Cauldron that kind of got rid of like the character creation system a little bit? Like you could create your own class. So
revamped it a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. And it made it like less complex. And it was like, but it's already an easy system. You're almost throwing a dart at the wall and going, okay, I guess I'm that. Versus like Pathfinder, I guess the thought behind it makes it for your interesting characters, trying to figure out why you're taking these feats. What makes your barbarian a barbarian versus a fighter? 5e, you're kind of like, some of us do spend a little bit more time in our backstory, and it makes for more interesting gameplay. But I think that the ease of access of D&D 5e also kind of like dumbs down the play a little bit.
Yeah, but it's also, the bigger groups, the easier to find groups are going to be the system that's easier to get into. Finding a DM other than, the professionals like Eric here, who is running a Pathfinder campaign is a lot more difficult than finding somebody who's running a 5e campaign, because there are more of them out there, because it's an easier system to learn.
Well, I mean, I'd love to. I'll try and do a quick Google search during this next time when I'm not talking. But I got to tell you, you could probably find a lot of Pathfinders, because Pathfinder's been out. Now. Even then, like I've known a lot of adventure guilds to actually run Pathfinder versus actually D&D.
Well, yeah, but how many of those tables were Pathfinder? How many were D&D?
No, most of them were Pathfinder. That's what I'm saying. Like down in Fort Myers, there are several tables or several adventures guilds that were Pathfinder, because it's a good system.
Oh, yeah. I don't think we're going to argue that. It is a good system.
Yeah, so were some of the other, Girds and Palladium and some of the other systems, Rollmaster. Some of those were good systems too, but you don't see them around anymore.
Yeah, well, that's because they ain't going to survive like Pathfinder will. I'm just saying that.
Oh, Pathfinder's now publishing D&D 5e modules, so I don't know how much life it's got left in it.
I don't know. What do you think, Eric?
Oh, I'll answer that question first. And I want to circle back to something Bolgg said. If there are more people right now playing Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, why should they have to reinvent their own game when they can just cash in on someone else's, while also creating new in-depth storylines and doing what Paizo has been doing for years, which is incredible world building?
You're in there dancing like that's a win, but he's
and also, this is a podcast. Nobody can see you dancing.
Hey, look, I'm going to continue to dance because that's awesome. Yeah, because that's why you bring in a ringer. He's right, though. D&D is, granted that we are looking at Pathfinder 2E, which we're trying to avoid the topic of because it's still kind of new. But I'm telling you, we're already looking at D&D 6th edition, not D&D 1.
D&D.
No. 6th edition. All right, we're going to continue on. We're not Xbox One-ing this.
I could shoot that down, too.
D&D 6th edition?
Yeah.
Okay, why?
1 D&D is amazing in concept. However, the biggest problem is it is continual monthly access paid into for what is essentially DLC for your game.
Oh, yeah, see? D&D 6th edition is already sucking ass.
Yeah, they're going to be a pay-to-win.
If you go back to
loot boxes and everything,
back to D&D 3.5, you had the Unearthed Arcana. It was an entire book of variant rules. What got a grand total of 13 pages in the 5th edition Dungeon Master Guide. So when you sit here and look this up, you will have you can vary your game however you want. And the first one I say is that anytime your character suffers a critical hit, you take a level of exhaustion. Now you feel the weight of that blow. I don't care that you had 300 hit points, Barbarian. You have a level of exhaustion. You're going to feel it. Every time your character drops to 0 hit points, you take a level of exhaustion. Now you feel the weight of continual combat. Great. They cast Healing Word. You're right back up. Congratulations. That level of exhaustion is still there.
Yeah, what kind of fun is that in D&D where you're just like, I can take a short rest anywhere? Like, that's annoying. Well, like Pathfinder, you're kind of held more to the consequences of your actions versus, D&D where you're just like, oh yeah, we'll just we'll create a nice little doorway over here where no one can find us, and that's the end of that. Like, where's the fun in that?
Now, there was something that Bolgg said a second ago.
Don't give him any credit. Don't give him any credit.
And that was that he could create a 5th edition character in 5 minutes. And you're right, you can. It may take you upwards of 30 minutes in Pathfinder, but when you don't build the character you want originally in those 5 minutes to go down the path you've decided, how many hours, how many sessions later before you can edit and change anything?
D&D, the 5e allows you to. There's new rules into it. You can pretty much change every level. It's kind of dumb.
That's only with the new 1D&D stuff that's been coming out.
No, it's actually it's in
Tasha's,
the
Tasha's has where you can change your spells and change a couple things, not everything.
Yeah, it's damn near everything.
You can't take a different feat.
Yeah.
You can't sit here and change out your entire spell list.
Right.
You can't change your racial abilities once you've set them.
Yeah.
No.
However, I'll argue that as soon as you've think you've made an initial mistake and you want to go a different direction in Pathfinder, oh, wait, I leveled up. I can go ahead and start my corrections now.
Yeah, but that's the same thing you can do essentially in 5e. So
no, it is much faster in Pathfinder.
Yeah, they're working that direction, but that was not before Tasha's. That was not there at all.
No,
yeah.
And in Tasha's, like now you can even change your subclass in Tasha's,
which I think is kind of whack.
Yeah. So
changing your subclass, it shouldn't be the focus of anything until it is narratively driven.
Right.
That I can see,
and
but
that is where there is a big weakness in 5e. Is you can do a lot of stuff that's not narratively driven.
I would say,
especially the multi-classing and certain feats that you can take.
Yeah, you've got
just
more
come out of nowhere and give your character blind sight or devil sight.
Would you stop that? Nobody's getting devil sight. None of you. No Eldritch evocations. You're not getting Warlock devil sight. There's a whole thing about that. You can go back and check a previous episode. It's worth the listen.
I already have it.
Oh, you've already listened?
No, I already have devil sight.
Oh.
I'm day blind. I wear prescription sunglasses.
I'm out of here.
Yeah, we had a previous episode where there's a feat that allows anybody to
Eldritch Adept.
Take a single
and it's a terrible
Warlock
feat, and it should be a thing in the game.
He argued for a half an hour that should never be allowed in a game, that it was too powerful.
It's not that it's too powerful. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
There's no narrative behind it. Oh, yeah, I'm just going to come out here. I haven't sold my soul or anything. Just read a book from Beyond the Grave, and now I can see in the dark magically. And it's stupid. I still think it's stupid. Why are you doing this to me?
Yeah.
Oh, I'd rather go with Armor of Shadows in that case.
Yeah, well, you can take any, as long as it doesn't have a prerequisite, you can take Eldritch Adept, and it's dumb because why are you doing this to me? You knew exactly what you did, you little bastard.
Because it illustrates the point where he is right. Pathfinder, you give narrative reasons for your stuff, whereas that is absolutely not required in 5e.
That's what I'm getting.
Unless you're at my table.
Don't sell yourself out. We gotta win this one still. I think we're doing good.
But that is another point. There is that a lot of these rules are up to the DM at their table. Like for example, for me with the Warlock pack, I'm going to go sit down with you, and we're going to have a patron set up, and that patron's going to have requirements of you, like giving a gallon of blood a day, or sacrificing 3 children a week, or whatever it is. He's going to have requirements for you to keep your Warlock powers, and we'll agree to this ahead of time.
Yeah.
To whatever those are, but that'll be part of your narrative for your Warlock powers. So yes, obviously, if somebody was going to go pick up that feat of and grab the dark vision, we would have to sit down and make some kind of a deal where he's doing something. Maybe he's giving an imp a small child or something. Whatever, to get that power. But yeah, there is something narrative at my table as well. But that is not part of the system. That is part of Loc the Bard's DMing structure, not part of 5e's rules.
Yeah, I think that's still a win for Pathfinder.
Yeah.
It's more than just having to pick that off of having to be narratively driven is great. because it gives you meaning behind your choices, which is something I always like to say. Like, we have those friends that create a new character every few rounds versus like...
Or the ones whose character dies every session for 10 sessions in a row.
That's besides the point. That's besides the point. Gosh, I feel like personally attacked. I bring in a ringer and now I'm being personally attacked.
Yeah.
But you get...
That's because they can't come at me.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
You go after the Achilles heel. You don't go after...
Anyway, you know what? I'm going to shut your mic off. No, you get these... Damn it, now where was I going? You did it, God.
I win.
Did you win, though? Did you win?
You did the bard thing.
God, would you stop? You stop, too.
Did you just suffer from vicious mockery?
You did.
God damn it. Why am I on this team?
You know what? All of you. This is the end of the episode. We're not doing this anymore. No, it's I don't know. Hey, bards and Devil Night Vision drive me insane. And you got to go back if you're this is the first episode you're listening to this on here at Chef Bolgg and the Pirate Captain's Recipes for Everything, featuring Luke the Bard. You got to go back and check it out. We have a whole episodes about where I just tell you why
it's the
bards.
feats episode, to be specific.
The feats, I don't think the feats has the Eldridge Adept feat in it, but the one that I go ham on bards is pretty much every other episode. Pretty much every episode.
Which is why I'm here, to remind you that bards are great.
I tell you, we were talking about having to start the campaign up from fresh. I think that Pathfinder is easier to actually start a campaign up from fresh because actually everything comes in the core rulebook. Like if you just buy the core rulebook, there's more in that book than there is in like the 5e book. You have to have like a Dungeons Master Guide or something like that versus the core rulebook of D&D or of Pathfinder has more in it, how to DM and things like that.
Yeah, it is a rule book rather than a player's handbook.
Yeah. So Wizards is trying to kind of screw you out of a little bit more of your change, whereas Paizo's is like, here's all your information. We'll nickel and dime you on the later stuff because they got 200 different books for Pathfinder. It's a lot.
My last count was almost 250.
Yeah. See.
Yeah.
So they're going to nickel and dime you that way, and the content that actually Pathfinder pushes out,
amazing.
Yeah, man. There's
more than 75%. I would say is absolutely amazing.
Think about that. How many times have we bought a 5e book and it's just kind of been lackluster?
Yeah, there's real we've mentioned the 3 books you really need, plus the DM's guide and a monster manual. of all of their publications,
you
6?
could be summed down to 4 books and be fine.
I'd say 6, but still, out of 60, 70, that's
DM's
a
guide,
low percentage.
DM's guide, player handbook, Xanthar's and Tasha's.
Monster manual.
The monster manual. Okay, so that's 5. Meet in the middle.
Loc said a minute ago that it comes down to essentially what's allowed at each DM's table. Yeah. Let me remind you that in 5th edition, both multi-classing and feats are both the variant rule. They are not the standard.
Correct.
All the standard rule says is, what'd you pick at level 1? Stick with it. Now you get ASIs.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so is flanking and a bunch of the other rules that are on every table
many.
are optional rules in the 5e, which apparently may, by looking at the playtesting, be going away in 6e. And becoming the standard rules, but that's another story.
Yeah, we'll get back on 6th edition when it comes out later on down the line, or at least when they release more.
There's actually another point about the books too. This maybe is in favor of it definitely is in favor of Pathfinder, but I don't own. I own 3 or 4 Pathfinder books, and none of them are hardback.
What?
None of them are hardback.
How do you not have a hardback? I have a hardback player's handbook somewhere. I know I do.
I have
a core rulebook for Pathfinder.
Paperback player's handbook and DM's guide. I know
they released hardcovers and softcovers for all their books.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying.
I think Bolgg means that's an upside because paperbacks are cheaper.
That's true.
Yeah, it saved you almost $12 a copy per book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Look. See. That's another win for us. We get this one.
I mean, I've got to be fair. Dungeons & Dragons is, owned by Wizards, owned by Hasbro. They're going to try and make money.
I mean, but that's the thing of every corporation. Like you're trying to tell me Paizo's not trying to make money? They are. I just think that in the end of it, it's nice that you can skimp a little bit, but the fact that I have to buy more books and that they put out, and the crappy part is that Wizards will put in like the one class that you like, a one new class. They'll give you three new subclasses. They're like, all right, we've got these great little subclasses for you, and they're gonna go right here. And you're like, well, I have to buy this, but you don't have to buy the book. But it's kind of like you have to buy the book is the idea behind it to play these subclasses. You can obviously go to the 5e wiki, but I can't play. Let's just make up a random class. I don't know, like a Philistine bard or something. You can't play that class unless you have the book on hand.
And
A Philistine bard?
A lot of tables, your DM has to also have that book,
Right.
So that he's read it and knows what he's getting into when he allows that at his table.
Yeah. Versus more people can share, and it's kind of hard because there is so much to do in Pathfinder that there's a lot that you have to do. But you can share one core rule book with the Pathfinder crew, and it's going to be fine. But you may have a spell out of Xanthar's and you out of Tasha's and me just out of the PHB. So, we all have to work, and then the DM's got to be able to reference it all. But they don't put enough content in the 5e books.
Right. And then 5e has a bad habit of not making their books compatible with each other, which is why things like Adventures Guild League, whatever they're calling themselves these days, have the PHB +1 rules.
I think they identify as a guild now.
Is it guild?
I think so.
Yeah.
But
Is that their proper pronoun?
that's it.
So they have their where you're allowed to use the PHB plus one other book when you're making your character, which limits you to what you can do because it is so easy with multiple books to create broken stuff because they didn't playtest the Spell of Thunder with the Thunder Mage, the Spell of Thunder from Tasha's with the Thunder Mage from Xanthar's with the Standard Wizard from the PHB.
You're talking about a Tempest Cleric with a Storm Sorcerer.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
But I gotta
or a Hexblade Warlock.
I was trying to
Oath
keep
of Vengeance Paladin.
I was trying to keep it generic.
Oh no, I actually know almost every single broken combination.
Yeah.
I encourage my players to play them. That way, I can pull out my stuff, and then I can leave them horribly broken upon the rocks. And they go, "We did this to ourselves."
Yeah.
But so D&D, when they were building their 5th edition stuff, did not make it to be where you could use. If you bought all 50 books they released, you're not supposed to go through and build characters that take the best of each. Their system is not designed for that. It's not optimized for that, which I would assume is not true for the Pathfinder, where every book is designed to work with all the rest of them.
I think they're all based to work off the core rule book. Am I right?
Yeah.
So everything kind of falls back onto the core rule book.
In Pathfinder, everything falls back to the core rule book.
Yeah.
Continuously referencing it throughout other books. And the only other time is when it gives you an exception, and it'll say this is the exception to the rule in the player's handbook, or the core rule book 1, as it's officially titled.
So you would think that it seems like Pathfinder's better play tested. Because if you've got that much that just kind of falls, everything should fall back on the PHB, which is also really nice that you have with Pathfinder the core rulebook, which covers everything that you need to play a game, versus nothing, because then you have to reference the DM's guide, which has a little bit different information than the monster manual, and that has different information from the player's handbook. So everything doesn't fall back onto it.
Yeah,
so Pathfinder, I would say, is better play tested.
I would concede that because even if you look, there's certain things if you look at the Blade Singer from the Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide and compare it to the Blade Singer in Tasha's, there are minor differences.
But Tasha's was good because it went in and it updated some of the errors and issues. We knew that one guy that always loved to play the Blade Singer, and he's like, I'm unbeatable, and it's AoE spells, bud. That's it. That's all I got to do. You can't Blade Sing AoE spells.
Yeah, but that mismatch between the two causes some issues because, if you're using the Sword Coast Adventure Guide, that other version's still out there. The Tasha's one doesn't replace it. It is, in addition, a second subclass with the same name and similar features.
Yeah, I never got that. I thought it would just that should be the updated version, you would use.
But that's not the way. That's not the way the D&D 5e system works.
Are you telling me the great D&D system that has worked so hard and has given us great modules like How to Go to College doesn't work?
Yeah.
Blasphemy.
Well, and then you get into the power creep of those modules where you're getting they started early playtesting their 6th edition, getting feats as part of your background stuff with that go to college. When I'm blanking on the name of right now.
Yeah,
Strixhaven.
Strixhaven.
That's a power creep. No other background gives you feats. But if you're using backgrounds, now there's other ones.
No, there was the one. Was it in Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica? Gave you actually spells. You didn't actually.
It gave you
have
spells,
to,
not feats.
Yeah, but you did. But that's pretty
same
powerful.
Argument. Yeah, same
that's
argument.
Pretty powerful.
That's a power creep thing. That those backgrounds are now more powerful than the standard backgrounds in the player's handbook. Why would you take the weaker background?
Yeah.
Because I would argue anything that came out of Theros or Ravnica is not actually set in the world of Faerun or any other traditionally published D&D 5th edition modules, which so far have been in the world of Faerun, on the world of Toril, and in Eberron, and coming soon, Dragonlance on the world of Kryn. But Theros and Ravnica are both settings inside of the lore of Magic the Gathering.
Right.
They may cross over, but unless your DM has already said, yes, we've had a Spelljammer event, we've had a convergence of some kind, and now we have all those things in this world, that this is available training, that may not be an appropriate backstory for your character, in which case you should really talk to your Dungeon Master or character creation. Always talk to your dungeon master.
But that goes
what
back
they don't
to
know doesn't
the
hurt.
fact that these classes are in campaign setting books rather than in a class expansion type book is where the way 5e does it. Because technically the player's guide and the Dungeons Master guide are supposed to be setting agnostic.
Yeah.
They would work.
That they
those
can go
ones
anywhere.
should go to any.
Yeah.
If they try and say, sorry.
No, you're
Captain.
good. You're good.
If they try to say that the player's handbook is setting agnostic, I would refer to you Dragonborn, a race born entirely, literally, out of the spell plague and the War of Dragons. You, please tell me, where are they from if your setting is agnostic?
They're also from Kryn, and they're also from a couple other. There are variant versions of the Dragonborn that exist.
The Dragonborn as written
Yeah.
Come after the spell plague.
Yeah. Oh,
It is. I'm trying to remember the exact wording. I think it is referenced in the exact wording for Dragonborn.
Yeah.
I don't have the player's hand guide with me.
All right, hold on
One
one second. We got the races.
But no, they are. There's an example. The ones from Faerun are an example they give, as just like the Drow. They give the example of the Faerun Drow, but they are the way they are supposed to be. All the ones in the player's handbook are supposed to be setting agnostic. Is the way it was, because they reference things like the Kender as an alternate a halfling in the.
That what you're referencing is actually from the Sword Coast Adventure Guide, and they give you a short list in the appendix of agnostic place settings of those races in other worlds.
No. In the player's handbook, under the halfling, they have the little blurb up in the corner where there's an alternate of this could be on this world. It's a small little blurb. You blink, you miss it. And I wish I had one in front of me here.
Yeah. Normally we have a lot of stuff, but they thought they were going to win this one easily.
Yeah.
But
those two are like you said, the Ravnica and the Strixhaven are setting specific. So I lose the argument anyway because those are setting specific. But the player's handbook and the Dungeons Master Guide are supposed to be setting agnostic. Supposed to be doesn't mean they actually are, but they are supposed to be.
All right, so I want to move back to Pathfinder versus D&D, and this is one that I actually I want to stay away from the feats because the feats hands down in Pathfinder are way better. There's more to build. You can do some insane fun builds in Pathfinder, and you'll just never be able to compete in D&D 5e because the D&D 5e feats are kind of like plain and generic. What I want to get to is the classes. Pathfinder has some of the best classes in the game that kind of allow you to fit more of a mold of what you want to do. You don't have to like really stretch. Let's say you want to build like a ninja in 5e, you got to take a little bit of this class and a little bit of this class, where there's actual things in Pathfinder that says, oh no, here's a ninja class. We built it for you. Here's how you do it. And it makes it easier. I think that the classes in there, and there's some really cool ones. You know, you have the Cavalier, the Alchemist, the Medium, the Summoner. These are unique and these are unique classes to the two that you don't really like. You have an alchemist in 5e, but it's the
artificer one that
the
just came
artificer, and it's not really that great.
Sadly, the weakest of all artificers.
Yeah. You would think that an alchemist is like making explosives. They're almost like a combat engineer, essentially. Is like, I'm going to go blow something up. And you're less of a blowing up kind of person and
you're more of a pharmacist.
Yeah.
Yeah. The alchemist from Pathfinder is far superior.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
The whole artificer class is a sore subject. They made a very big deal when it came out that this is the first new core class for D&D, since 4th edition or however long, 10 years or whatever. Big press releases on that, and you can already see they're abandoning it in 6th edition. It's not going to be a core class according to the most recent play tests that come out. So
that's because you're afraid of the armorer.
Yeah.
Yeah, the armor is kind of cool, but I think there's other...
I think
but
even
the armor,
Wizards acknowledges they screwed up the artificer, I think.
Yeah, but the armor is beat out by the Forge Cleric. The Forge Cleric does what the armor does, but like a little bit better. And you're a little bit... Because you can wear medium armor as the Forge Cleric, and you can give this almost the same buff, maybe not near as good, but you can do a lot more, like flame spells and stuff like that. I think you get Burning Hands as a Forge Cleric.
I don't know, the armor artificer where you can add 5 infusions in your helmet, your belt and boots all count as separate.
Yeah, but
infusible locations.
But the Forge Cleric, I think, is
it 4? Yeah,
the Forge a lot of that's based on you as the artificer versus like the Forge Cleric helps other people.
Right.
So.
No. I'm just saying. So you give yourself 4 infusions to your armor, giving yourself a +1 each time to your plate mail, and all of a sudden you are
but
not a 25 armor class.
But you also have something that I like that Wizards could do, and it would be fun to see in 6th edition, is the prestige classes.
I do miss prestige classes. That is a great weakness of the 5e system.
All right, so for those of you who don't know, Eric, you want to explain what a prestige class is?
Yeah, so a prestige class coming from all the way back in 2nd edition Dungeons & Dragons by taking... highly specializing in one class and often multi-classing with another class to then opt into a program to take a third new class that combines certain features from both and creating a very powerful and unique character. Can be done in 5th edition, though very dumbed down, as you're losing out on progression in either class as you multi-class, which is the highlight of prestiging through 3.5 and Pathfinder, and continuing on. There's been other systems that's done it as well.
Like your ninja, for example. If D&D had said take 3 levels as an assassin class and 3 levels as a shadow monk, and then you could prestige at level 7 into a ninja as your new class.
Well, I mean, you with these classes,
but that doesn't.
It takes a lot of
D&D just didn't do that. They made because they had it, like you said, in old editions it existed.
Right. And so you have to, and you lose out some of the better abilities because some of the better abilities of your classes do come at 18th level and stuff like that. So you lose out on the ability to grab the the one thing that makes your class defined. Yeah. But they found that in Pathfinder, and they're like, here, you can build up to be this hero. If you can make it this long, let's just be honest, so, people die. So, but versus like 5e just, they got away with it, and now you have less. I'd like to see something kind of like Final Fantasy Tactics you've talked about, where you kind of build up to it. I think, and we've talked about how we would revamp that.
Yeah, that like, for Eric's benefit, I've mentioned that is my favorite leveling system, is the one that is in Final Fantasy Tactics, where everybody starts out as either a squire or a chemist. You had to get 3 levels in one of those. If you got 3 levels as a squire, you could then become either a knight or an archer. 3 levels as a chemist, you could become either a white mage or a black mage. Then depending what you took levels in and what you combined, you could unlock all the other classes that exist in the Final Fantasy world.
And that's one of the things like I'd like to keep on to. You know what's also great about the Pathfinder versus 5e? There aren't that many goddamn types of bards. God, freaking bards can do everything.
Lore bard for the win still.
Even worse.
Yep.
Even worse.
Lore bard is probably the most broken of 5e classes. That's
Lore Bard is essentially, I can do that.
yeah.
I don't want to get into that one because I'm going to tell you, no.
Well,
I just no.
Do you need a wizard?
No,
'Cause
everybody
I'm
needs a wizard.
Oh, did you need a cleric? I'm also just happen to be a cleric.
Yeah.
God, 6th edition, please make Eldritch Blast Warlock only feature.
It looks like they will, but when they have released the Lore Bard in the playtest, and they will be nerfing it quite a bit.
Yeah, there needs to be a
But it will
limit
be a
on
better cleric now than it was.
I'm glad I don't really care for clerics. So, actually, I have an idea for
It's nerfing the wizard part of it to make it a better cleric.
which is something because they're a support class.
Yeah.
They're a support class. What are you doing if you're always doing what the other classes do? You have now everybody can just be a bard and win the game.
Yeah.
It's stupid.
I would argue
Stupid.
to survive until level 3 as a bard alone and see if you've earned it. Because at a certain point, once you're a lore bard, I'm proficient in a wide variety of weaponry. I have a good set of skills. I have the right spell selection. I'm going to survive, so long as I'm able to do it out of combat. I can heal myself. If you're a relatively big thing or I've been able to whittle you down, go to sleep. Let's go ahead and just go, hey, I'm going to shoot color spray in your face and you're just going to be blind and I'm just going to tiptoe away.
Well, I mean, I don't because I might as well just rename this podcast We Hate Bards, even though it's just me who hates bards, but we hate bards because we talk about it all the time how much I hate bards.
Oh, no, y'all hate me playing a warlock.
No, I love warlocks. Warlocks are cool. I like warlocks, wizards. I like casters. Casters in general are great. I just don't like bards.
Just favoritism. That's all it is.
That's not favoritism at all.
Hey, so tell me the kind of warlock you play then real fast.
I play a Hexblade Warlock.
Yeah?
It's the
At
best
what
one.
range?
Oh, melee.
Wrong.
No, that's the fun one because if you're using your
He's playing against type intentionally.
Yeah, you play against type, and it's fun. It's fun because you can change your. If you take pack to the weapon, you chain pack to the weapon, pack chain,
Pack to the blade.
pack to the blade. You can change your weapons on free action, so you're always ready for whatever system. So you can be a tank, you can be damage, you can do you can do a far because you take there's a Eldritch Evocation you have to take to fire arrows. So
Yes, but I would argue that taking the improved packed weapon after going a Hexblade Warlock with a pack to the blade, focus on archery, and do 600 foot consistently, which would otherwise take you spells and additional invocations.
I've already had the fun of being the artillery warlock, where you're just hitting things off. You're like, bam, dropping shells on them. That's besides the point.
3/4 cover at 600 feet away, Eldritch smiting.
It's not near as much fun. Like I get it, and I like the warlock, but the warlock very easily counterable. Like there's a
Not
lot
at
to
600 feet away.
Hey, just about any class built right and used right can be broken.
Yeah. I want to talk about because yet again we're in here versus D&D versus Pathfinder, and it's fun to kind of reach over and tell you why. Like 5e does have its good parts. Like I'm not here to deny that. We are a D&D 5e podcast until 6th edition comes out, and then we're a D&D 6th edition podcast. But and Eric, you're gonna have to help me argue this because this is gonna be a little bit hard. But do you think the classes are more balanced in Pathfinder or in D&D?
I would say that each class individually is more balanced against the creatures.
Overall, in between each other, like everything. If I'm just looking at character creation, like the balance of the classes. All right. Do you think that the classes in Pathfinder are more balanced than the classes in D&D?
Well, it is a multi-level question because you've got that side of it, but you've also got what Eric was talking about. You have to balance the players versus the DM as well. If a DM is, trying to throw monsters out there and accidentally wipes the party, I've done it several times myself. What balance
I'm just hearing a plot point.
But also, like, what's balanced at level 1 versus what's balanced at level 10 versus what's balanced at level 20
all right.
are going to be different. Like, a mage at level 1 kind of sucks.
Okay. So let's level 10. All classes across the board, Pathfinder, D&D. And they're not versus each other. We're not putting Pathfinder versus D&D when I talk about these classes together. I'm saying all the classes in D&D versus all the or they're versus each other.
Yeah.
Does a mage stand a chance against this? Does a warlock does a bard, and so on and so forth. Now, I would honestly say that balanced classes in D&D is not true, because it goes back to my argument, because bards can do everything. What's the point of other classes?
But also, like at certain levels, like a human variant fighter with great weapon
Everybody's
master,
human.
Yeah.
Everybody's human.
But a human variant great weapon master fighter at level 1, their damage output is going to outclass just about everybody.
Well, so then, like I said, let's make it 10.
If they hit, yeah.
Let's make it 10.
Yeah, but the highest AC that you're going to get in 5e at early level 1 specifically, your highest AC is an 18.
Yeah.
Now, if you're doing a human variant great weapon master, you're looking at a +3 to hit. If there's a situation that allows you to get advantage for any reason, your average becomes an 18 again.
Yep. And then if they have either sharpshooter or great weapon master, where you're adding that +10 to damage to every attack.
Yeah. Well, even if you're taking sharpshooter, don't even add +10 to the to your damage. Just put range in between you.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter how hard you hit, if it takes you 9 turns to get to me, and I can hit you consistently for 9 turns.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is I think that back to the.
I'm just saying your question is kind of difficult to say.
Okay,
because
ready. Here's what it's going to be. We're going to make it generic. So generic that everybody kind of gets the same stuff. All right, I have a level 10 orc. That's his race. Any class of D&D, okay? Any class. Does any level... you know what? You're just going to find a way around this argument. All I'm saying is, are the classes better balanced at any point during the game? Better in Pathfinder and D&D. I would argue that, honestly, Pathfinder has better class balance because everything can be done by bards.
Well, yeah, but also in Pathfinder, because your build is not based as heavily on your class, you've got the ABCs, where your
Always be casting?
No, the abilities, background, and class, something like that. I don't know. I've not looked at Pathfinder in a really long time.
Well,
but your character creation has more depth to it, and therefore your class alone is weighted less in Pathfinder than it is in because D&D, your class is your begin all end all pretty much for what you are.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas
and it's only the beginning in Pathfinder.
It's only a
I
step.
think the question he's asking comes down to this, and that is saving throws. You have 6 saving throws in 5th edition, and it's going to target you in a different plethora of ways. At a certain point, I just cast Maze and just watch you run around for everyone who made intelligence your dump stat. But Pathfinder, you have 3. You have Fortitude, Reflex, and Will. And all spells fall back into those 3 saving throws, or again targeting your AC, which is very different because you can hit somebody in armor very, very easily with a touch spell. But when we sit here and we think about who is the single best PvP or even PVM class, honestly, anybody that can just say, you don't get to take a turn. So you're looking at anybody who can sit here and go a paralyzing thing like Hold Person or Hold Monster, or Stunning Fist, in which we're looking at you, monks.
Yeah, monks finally getting some love.
Popularity-wise, rated as one of the weakest classes in D&D.
Yeah.
Yeah?
They're wrong.
Are you a fighter or a
wrong.
barbarian?
Yeah.
Great. Make this Constitution saving throw while I now have advantage on every single hit until the end of my next turn, which means that I'm getting 7 free hits at advantage, and I'll go ahead and make that second round with Flurry of Blows again, and I'm going to go ahead and make sure by dropping an extra Stunning Fist in there to make sure you never get another turn.
Yeah, it seems like...
Yeah, like I said, popularity-wise, they say they're the worst, weakest class, but they're wrong.
No, there's a lot of
they're wrong.
There's a lot of beauty behind monks because I think they get their ability to dodge spells before rogues do.
But I think
rogues
a
get
lot
theirs
of that
at 8.
has to do with people not understanding the mechanics of the monk. and therefore not taking advantage of things like the stunning fist and trying to be Avatar: The Last Airbender and focusing on the elemental stuff with their
or God forbid trying to be Goku.
Yeah.
God, that was
Way of the
terrible.
Four Elements is probably the weakest version of Monk.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's why I used it as the example.
The Brewmaster was like it could be great, but it never got the love that it needed. I thought the Brewmaster would have been fun, but I don't know. Like the classes like that, kind of trying to see them and get them to. Everybody's gonna play. Everybody has their favorite class, right? But everybody knows that there's a class that just kind of like outshines the rest. Especially if you look in D&D 5e, it's the Bard, the Paladin. The Paladin.
A team full of paladins can take on any threat. I'm 100%
Yeah, but it takes honestly.
sure. So can a team full of clerics, though.
A
Yeah,
team full of moon druids.
A paladin kind of requires a little bit of skill. That one's kind of like, I wouldn't say it's like a high amount of skill. You're not looking at a high skill cap class, but it does take a little bit of thought, especially when you're trying to do your stats. If you do basic array, the paladin kind of like can fall through if you're just not watching. So I don't know. I just wanted to see what you guys thought had a better total balanced classes. I honestly think that Pathfinder does. Because
and I would give that to Pathfinder, but like I
we're
said,
on the freaking roll, man.
but like I said, it's not so much that it's a better class; it's that the weight of the class has on your character's overall development is less.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that you were saying earlier.
Ancestry, that's the A. Ancestry background in class.
And that was something you were
Took
saying
me a
earlier.
minute, but I got there.
That was something you were saying earlier that I thought about, and I think that makes Pathfinder stand out a little bit better. Is, in D&D, you're kind of like your identity is your class.
Yeah.
Like it's not your background. You're not a noble, or you're not somebody who is a wanderer or anything like that. Versus in Pathfinder, you have identity outside of your class. You're more than just a barbarian. You kind of like.
Yeah, a
The
barbarian's
feats and
chieftain's son is different than a barbarian shaman assistant.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. So, like, I think 5e kind of like puts too much focus on the class and not enough focus on what the class is about, how you got to be in that class.
Yeah, and that goes back to the keeping it simple. 5e. I was talking to my nephew who's 15, and talking about trying to get him and his friends playing D&D because I'm a recruiter for D&D. I do that, and they're like, "No, there's too much math." And too much math. Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Too much math.
And so when you try to convince them to play a system that's even more math, like Pathfinder,
Yeah, but
it's even harder.
I don't know. I think that's terrible. I think that you actually do get a good bit about a math in both of them if you really think about it, or you just have somebody that calculates it for you, so you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, and that's something 5e. Like you go back to the old 2e. Where you had negative numbers, God forbid. That was just too advanced. That's what 3E. That was the big joke when 3E came out. Is they stripped THAC0 out just by flipping it over, and where you're trying to hit a 20 instead of trying to hit a 0.
It was -10.
Yeah,
Was the highest.
right. Yeah, but it was THAC0 was to hit AC 0.
Right.
0 was the target. Now you're trying to hit a 20, which is full plate and armor. They just flipped it over. It's pretty much all they did is get rid of the negative.
It is easier to. I'll give you something about hits and like armor and stuff. It is easier to crit in D&D versus Pathfinder because you got to confirm the hit, and that's kind of annoying.
Yes, but Pathfinder also has wider ranges of critical.
Isn't it
threats.
18 and 20, or is it 19 and 20 on anything but a fighter? Because I think the fighter gets down to like 16 or something. Like it's ridiculously low.
You can so in 5th edition. The lowest a champion fighter gets is an 18. However, in Pathfinder, between the right weapon selections, the right feat selections, and certain magical abilities, I've had it down to a 12.
Yeah. All I'm saying. Yeah, you just got to confirm the crit, But that's an annoying thing. Like, and I get when you kind of like that's them going back and like play testing against themselves. So it's better play tested.
Yeah, and crits. I don't use the default crits. We've posted on our site my crit chart that I use because I don't like the D&D basic crits are boring.
Yeah.
D&D crits are boring. Adding one extra die is boring.
So the crits at my table, maximize your first die, roll the second one as normal.
Oh, that's pretty cool. But I mean, it gives you a little bit of flavor.
Not just that, but it means that your weakest crit is still stronger than your strongest regular hit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and like Loke's saying, he does have his crit chart, which honestly adds a little bit. You can actually die from a critical hit. You can kill an enemy instantly from a critical hit. It's a very low chance. Everything's based off percentiles. But you can literally die from that. What do you want to say there?
Yeah, but you can do that in Pathfinder with a certain set of cards that we've used before.
Oh, yeah. Where you send an enemy's... And like it was the first turn of like the final round of combat, and I accidentally send the boss enemy to another dimension.
Did he activate your trap card?
Yes, he did. I hit him with I think like Eldritch Blast or something, and
that's like just one of a few that are in there that you can randomly draw, and it's like, oh, you decapitate them, they're dead. No matter what the resistances are, they're dead.
Yeah, it's so much fun.
I love those cards. I love
Now, are those cards third party or are those cards direct?
They're Pathfinder cards.
They're Pathfinder cards. They're actually based off of older editions of D&D and stuff.
I know we've used them in 5e just because they are, like I said, D&D's crit system. See, that's where your argument should have went. D&D's crit system sucks.
I wasn't trying to go with like the easy ones. I wanted to go like the hard ones, the thought-provoking ones, not the ones where we sit there for like 10 minutes talking about how much bards suck.
Yeah.
All right, well, if we're going to get into 5th edition versus Pathfinder and about what are the real separations, who here plays 5th edition and plays 5th edition modules?
We don't do the modules. The modules kind of...
Okay.
Meh.
Start telling me anything in Faerun's lore that you don't have to look up out of an older edition's manual to know.
Oh, not a damn thing.
We play home.
Exactly.
We play homebrew worlds. We don't use Faerun at all. So.
Not just the out of the older modules, but even the expanded lore in the books. There's stuff they reference. Richard Lee Byers has a passage under Gnome that comes from one of the books that you would never know is associated with gnomes unless it was there.
And also, the lore has changed so much over the... Like, if you go back to some old lore, dwarves could not use magic.
Mm-hmm.
Second edition D&D, dwarves could not use arcane magic at all, period. There was no circumstance. Now a dwarf can be any class. Anybody can be any class. There are no racially limited classes any longer. So
Nothing makes you unique. And you will all be the same, and you will like it.
If you're reading some of that old lore from the old editions, it ain't going to line up with that until you get to the, what is it, Spell Plague or Spell War or whatever it was where Mystera died and was replaced and blah, blah, blah. If you're not read up to that level, the lore ain't going to make sense. It ain't going to work.
There's places in Faerun that they haven't even talked about yet in any of these modules that I know exist from older modules like Karator. That's primarily where people learn their monk stuff from.
Yeah.
Unless they're the old pugilist type monk.
But if you go back to
I'm going to throw these hands in the name of God.
3.5, you're actually going to find volumes. We're talking about 35 or 40 volumes of lore and world building of Faerun. If you don't have access to those titles, what are you actually building the lore on and basing your campaigns on inside these modules that are extremely limited? And we could talk about any sort of capstone abilities in any class all day long. Great. No module, as rules as written, goes past level 15.
Yeah, it's very hard to get campaigns that go past, but you do something that I like, and that they started doing in Loke the Bard's campaign, which is the milestones. Kind of it's a build up instead of every getting something at the end of every, because it feels like participation trophy, and then you outscale the combat, so your campaigns end a little bit shorter. I feel like the what are you over there? You're looking away and grimacing. What you got?
Campaigns might end a little shorter because
you blow up the world.
Blow up the world.
Yeah, you blow up the world. But that sounds like real personal problems right there. But anyway, I think that D&D, and we've had this, it takes a lot to go beyond 20th level. We're starting to get to this, that we have a few episodes that we can actually refer back to now.
And the milestone thing, like I fought it for a long time. I used a hybrid system for a long time, and it's one of those things. Once you make that adjustment, you go, why was I fighting this the whole time? Because it makes much more. Yeah, it makes much more sense. But I used to award experience for each of the 3 pillars, for exploration, for role playing, and for combat, and I would calculate what you would need for the next level as a party, and I would set 1/3 of that you could get from each of those pillars in every session. That didn't mean you'd actually get it, but it was possible in each session.
So
if
what
you
you're
did
saying
everything.
is you made more work for yourself.
I made more work for myself, yes. Yeah. Whereas a simple milestone just says, okay, when they get to this part in the story where they're done, they level up.
Other huge side effect of milestones is as characters level up, they get new powers.
Yeah.
As they get new powers, it doesn't necessarily keep up with what the monsters are doing or the other encounters around them. And milestones just say you're not gaining XP and you don't need to until I've had time as a DM to evaluate your strengths and weaknesses, change up some of the monsters and things like that you're encountering, balance them, and give you those challenges that you, deserve.
Yeah.
You guys are being heroes. You deserve to be challenged.
Yeah,
you also deserve to steamroll certain enemies to be badasses.
I mean, yeah.
It
'cause
also
once you get to,
never
like,
made
level
sense
50
to
like, once you
level
get
up
to
in the middle of a dungeon.
Yeah.
You're in the middle of a dungeon. The monsters are already laid out. It never made sense. That,
also doesn't
because the session ended and you earned this much experience this session, you all level up. So next week, these monsters are now suck compared to you guys. I have to either rebuild the dungeon that's already halfway through, or I hold you off from leveling for another week, which it makes more sense to hold off the leveling.
Well, that's it goes back to that thing where I was saying earlier, you find a magical short rest in the middle of a dungeon, then everybody feels better already.
No.
I don't know. That's something I'd like to think about. Like magic recovery, I think, is a little bit better it's easier definitely in 5e, but magic recovery in Pathfinder, how is that done? It's not the rest system like it's like
every day that you actually take, you get a long rest, you recover your hit dice, which is your total character level,
right,
plus your Constitution modifier back in HP, which means if you're not magically healing every day, you need time between adventures.
Yeah.
You guys, if you were a 60 HP character and you just lost, 59 hit points and nobody's using magic on you, you need 3 days of sleep to get better.
Yeah. There is in the player's handbook an alternate rules. Is it called the Iron Man rules, I think? Where a
D&D
long rest.
hard mode.
Yeah. Where a long rest is a week and a short rest is 8 hours.
I'm down for that because the warlock's just going to run away. We're like, everybody's a warlock
but
now.
That way,
finger pistols.
If you're not taking a week off in between your adventures, you're not getting that full heal and all your spells back. You're getting your arcane recovery spell and your hit dice, and that's it.
Why don't we play hard mode more often? That just seems like fun.
It's okay. So we've seen people play Dark Souls, Bolgg, at the table, and to which I say, use hard mode rules. And on top of that, let's use Joe Magliano's death saves so that whenever you make a death saving throw, it's not a DC 10, it's a DC 15.
Oh, hey, look, I'm down for that.
Death
is permanent for a guy that dies all the time. I'm fine with that. It's okay.
Yeah, and
maybe it's because you're in melee with that Warlock Hexblade.
No, actually, my Warlock never went down. You gotta be quick. He was good. I'm telling you, Hexblade Warlock in the melee, bro. That's where it was at. You had a dual wield sword and shield. Actually, I took the time to summon a demon, named him, made him my pet. That's right. They work for me. I treated him like a warlock from World of Warcraft.
Okay.
Yeah, so it worked out. I didn't. We've actually done
also in an 8-person party, which.
Oh.
Even then, like I was able to fight things by myself. I did it quite a lot because the issue I have with the Hexblade Warlocks, and I've said this before, is the fact that you only get the one curse per short rest, and that's kind of like the main feature of your class, and there's never any additional charges. And then you get to move it if you kill the target, but I think the words stipulate that you have to kill it before you can move it, and it's just stupid.
The Hexblade Hex, not the
Hexblade's Curse.
Yeah, Hexblade's Curse, and it's it's overrated. Like, it needed to be reworked. Like, some of the classes do need reworked. The ones that they picked to rework weren't really, like, bad to begin with. I never thought there was an issue with the Blade Singer, but it's D&D versus Pathfinder, guys, and I know we're just, that's what happens.
We're just shitting all over everything that we love.
Yeah, exactly.
Everywhere.
That is the whole milestone of this episode is we love this. Now watch us to pick it apart.
Yeah.
We're like
You
buzzards.
could only pick it apart this in depth if you loved it enough to read these books and dig into this stuff.
Yeah. Well, that being said, I think it's a good wait. What are you at?
I was going to say that, like, this whole argument comes down to something that I've been thinking about, actually, about like other subjects, is that what is most popular isn't necessarily the best.
Yeah.
Like,
I
I
would
listen
agree.
to metalcore. I Prevail is huge in the metalcore community. I don't think they're the best. I don't. I like Brand of Sacrifice.
Okay,
or,
there it is. There's the payoff. He's like, I don't think it's the best, and I'm like, okay, what? It's just fine.
Or like Within Destruction, other bands are better than this. Pathfinder may be quote unquote better than D&D, but D&D is the most popular because it's the most approachable.
And also, that also applies to what is the first that came through the door, the biggest. I read I've read 12 fantasy books in the last 3 weeks. I can't stand Tolkien. I thought Tolkien was dribble, garbage.
How do you feel about the Bible? Because that's how the Silmarillion
Yeah,
reads.
exactly.
Look, man, Tolkien's just very descriptive.
Yeah, but
that's all it is.
The point is, I still like fantasy. I still like D&D, and I like all these role-playing stuff that are a lot of that is derived from Tolkien. I just personally didn't like Tolkien. It just wasn't for me.
I'm gonna punch you.
It's like you can like rock and roll without liking the Beatles or.
No, yeah, that's rock and roll. I would say, well, there's a difference between rock and roll and rock.
Yes.
All right, take it from a classic rock, DJ.
Yes.
I just gonna throw that one out there. I just wanted to have a fun one because there's questions out there, and this I guarantee you that this episode will pop for a few people. They've either wanted to always play one or the other, and they want to know which one we think is the best. And I was like, well, like I said, that's why we bring in an expert of the game. I'm not an expert of it because I've only played so much of it, but I thought it was a fun conversation that could generate just a little bit of traffic out there that people would be like, oh, well, I don't like that about D&D, or I don't like that about Pathfinder. Let me go try the other thing and give them a chance to play it. I mean, that's what we've all done. We've taken systems. I've been trying to incorporate the Pathfinder skill system into D&D 5e because the skill system in Pathfinder is so broad and it makes you feel unique and special when you can do the one thing that nobody else can do because anybody, wizards, bards, everybody, oh, yeah, you're good at Arcana. Why are you good at Arcana?
Yeah, the thief failed to pick the lock. Let me try because I've got sleight of hand as well for some reason.
Yeah.
Even though I'm not a thief.
Never used it before in my life.
Which this is going to show both sides, right? And that is, you actually have to show a narrative reason why your character can do this in 5th edition. But you can slowly build up your skills in anything as you practice and everything else in Pathfinder.
Yeah. Because as you level, you get so many proficiency points to add to your skill thing. So as you go along in life, if you felt like you've gotten better at something, you can get progressively better at it. Because you only get your proficiency plus your modifier, which caps out eventually. Versus in Pathfinder, there's exponential growth to your skills.
You can, in theory, do some of that in 5th edition. I mean, Chef Bolgg used to just be Bolgg the Brutal. But because I picked up a chef hat and then spent my next feat on learning new skills, picking up
but that cooking
skilled feat.
Yeah, but the cooking is not a skill in 5e versus it is in
All you
Pathfinder.
need is chef's utensils.
There's a chef feat, and you have proficiency in chef's utensils as
okay,
tool.
that doesn't mean you can't cook.
Yeah.
Just because you can use a knife, Rose can use
the
knives.
Chef feat allows him to give temporary hit points for anything he cooks on a short rest, basically.
Yeah, but
To
it can
which I
still
say
be poison.
take the healer feat and
Yeah.
Yeah, but flavor-wise.
no, it's
literally
absolutely fun.
Yeah.
It's fun, and I'm not going to ever say that it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's
then
unique.
story-wise, he went on to actually open a restaurant and
Come on
other-
down to Chef Bolgg. I can't
Shay
do it.
noodles and stuff. You know what this is.
Yeah, I know.
Yes.
Our noodles and stuff.
But
Why do I have to put on the chicken suit? He's the bard.
Because
Gosh.
you look funniest.
I do.
He couldn't afford my rates as an entertainer.
What is it? 2 copper? 3? I'll pay it right now. Put on the chicken suit.
Half a kingdom.
Well, that's a little outrageous, don't you think?
But I'm worth it.
I don't think so.
But
I have my doubts.
what I would encourage players to do, this whole argument has been D&D versus Pathfinder. I say if you only know D&D 5e, give Pathfinder a try. Find you a book. You can find them at most major bookstores, and find a group that wants to play. Give it a try. Roll 20.
Don't find a
Fantasy
group.
Grounds, whatever you need to do, and play it.
Don't find a group. I want you to go and take over a group.
Well,
That's what you do. You come in, you sit down, you go, we're playing Pathfinder. You know, the people at the bingo hall are going to be a little bit mad, but you know what? You made some new friends.
And that's one thing you'll notice. All of us have mentioned things. We've mentioned Pathfinder in past episodes. Palladium games, Rollmaster, Gertz.
Yeah.
These are the ones off the top of my head that we've mentioned on this show. We have played a lot of different systems. If you like role-playing games, don't be afraid to branch out.
Yeah, try.
You might find one that's more appropriate for what you're doing.
Yeah, we talked to, and you may not have been able to hear them when we did our Necronomicon episode. We talked to guys that played a whole different setup altogether. What was the
vampire guys?
the vampire kid from
Vampire the
Georgia, man?
Masquerade,
Yeah.
Yeah, different system for different folks. You might find one you like better, or you might just like one for a change
I
sometimes.
stole, I stole their power strip or their power cord.
Sometimes you want a completely different flavor. We all love fantasy, but sometimes, like, I really want to play Cyberpunk. I love Cyberpunk as a system, and if I want to add magic to it, bam, I've got Shadowrun.
Shadowrun is dope.
It is so dope, but
dope.
it is also very complex. So it's
As much as we love D&D 5e, these other systems could be just as much fun for you if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, but it's hard to sell us on a D&D. It's hard to sell us as a D&D 5e podcast when we don't talk about D&D 5e. That's why we do it that. So
yeah, but we can always do special episodes.
I like this one.
So we actually haven't said the one vastly negative thing that everybody else is going to say. So let's go ahead and address the elephant in the room there. Crunch.
Yeah.
So if you can get past the initial crunch inside of Pathfinder, you will find it is an incredibly customizable, expansive system.
Well developed, yeah.
Oh, it's very, very well developed. And it has so many different archetypes and modules and different things for you to do as a player or a DM. You can develop, and if you're not using their own expansive lore that they have in Galarian, which is amazing, even if you're doing your own homebrew stuff, there is so much to build from. And you can build the world you want in any level of depth. So all you have to do is take the time, get over that hesitation, and get past that initial problem of dealing with all the crunch. And there is so much to explore.
I feel like there's like the initial hurdle with Pathfinder's character creation, much more than D&D 5e, and we talked about that at the beginning of this episode.
I think the initial hurdle is really going to be finding a game master.
Yeah, that could be a big one.
Go on roll20.com, look up games.
Yeah.
We've been talking to our friend Eric. He's what do you got?
No, I was just going to say that if you're looking for one live and in person,
Oh.
it's much harder to find somebody because you've got to find somebody who already knows what they're doing.
Yeah, but there's also looking for groups everywhere. We've touched on this multiple times on previous episodes. It's easiest now to go and find a way to play any system than it ever has been before because of how technology connects the world now.
Yep.
Yeah. And you should not be held away from any games and any socialization that you want just because of where you happen to be born or raised or working and everything else, being held away from people. We have the internet. It's connected us in amazing ways, and we should be able to use those tools to continue to interact with our friends and build relationships on a daily basis.
I don't want to be friendly. I'm a pirate captain for a reason.
Arg.
Arr. All righty, we've been talking to Eric. He's our good friend, a longtime friend actually of the show. You can find him at Dungeon Master Eric, unless you're looking for him at TikTok, which it's Dungeon Master _Eric. Mondays and Saturdays, 11 p.m. He's on 2 different games. He's playing one and DMing the other. You're going to find him at ADH Adventures on Monday and Twisted _Pickles
Those are his games. With that being said, it's time to get out of here, guys. This episode has been brought to you by our friends at God Mode Gaming. Go check them out on Friday as well. And find us. Facebook, Pirate Captain, and you know what? Screw it. Say goodbye, Bolgg.
Goodbye, Bolgg.
And goodbye, Loc.
See ya.
Bye, everybody.
We appreciate you listening to Chef Bolgg and the Pirate Captain's Recipes for Everything, featuring Loc the Bard, of course. Make sure you go find us on Facebook to see what old concoctions Bolgg is cooking up in the kitchen. And if you want your emails read, then email us at bolgandpc@gmail.com. And as always, happy adventures. Yarr.